Copenhagen nearly broke us, financially and physically. 4 days in January, freezing cold, and somehow one of the best family trips we've ever had. But here's the thing, it's absolutely not for every family, and I want to save you from making an expensive mistake. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on whether Copenhagen is right for your family. No fluff, no hype, just the truth. I'll also tell you the one moment I nearly booked us on the next flight home. Stick around for that. Before we book any city break as a family, there are 5 things that I always check first. Will our son enjoy it? Is it easy to get around? Is it good value for money? Will we be chilled and relaxed or completely stressed out? And will we wish we'd gone somewhere else instead? So how did Copenhagen do? So will the kids enjoy it? In all honesty, yes, they probably will. It does depend on your own children, but our son absolutely loved it. Tivoli Gardens is the perfect starting point. I generally didn't know if he'd enjoy it. I was completely wrong, and I'll tell you why in a second. There's rides for little ones, there's rides for the older kids, and really beautiful gardens to walk around. We went in January, so I thought it was going to be a nightmare, but it actually added to the charm. Decorated for Christmas, and I have to say the mulled wine went down very well. We also went to Nijhaven, and to be honest, our son wasn't as impressed, and honestly, this is one that's more for the adults, but you still have to go. Those iconic coloured buildings are what people picture when they think of Copenhagen. Is Copenhagen easy to get around? Now, that is one thing that I loved about Copenhagen, was just how easy it is actually to get around, even if, like us, you walk everywhere. Now, if you compare it to somewhere like London, where everything is spread out and getting anywhere feels like a mission, in Copenhagen, most things are fairly close together. Now, Copenhagen is a cycling city, so you'll see bikes absolutely everywhere. If you're a confident cyclist and your kids are too, it's a brilliant way to get around. To be honest, I'm not. So when we needed to travel a bit further, we jumped on the bus. We only needed to do that once to get to the Experitorium and the Little Mermaid statue. Because the city centre is so compact, you'll end up walking around most of it. And that is a massive plus when you've got kids. There's no tired legs, no are we there yet. Is Copenhagen good value for money? And I'll be straight with you, Copenhagen is expensive. I've done an entire video breaking down exactly what we spent as a family, and I'll link that in the description. But here's my honest take on whether it's worth it. Yes, you'll definitely pay more than most other city breaks. Meals can be pricey, hotels aren't cheap, but you get real quality in return. Copenhagen is clean, the people are incredibly friendly, and we felt completely safe the entire time. You never felt like you were being ripped off, and that matters more than people realize. There are ways to obviously keep the cost down. Supermarkets are brilliant for snacks and lunches. You don't need to eat out at every single meal. But if you do want to eat out, try and find some more local restaurants and avoid anything right in the middle of the tourist hotspots. So yeah, it's not a cheap trip, but it's great value. Only you know if that fits your budget. But I can tell you this, we loved every minute of it, and we'd go back without hesitation. Now, here's a thing that nobody really talks about in family travel content: stress. Because it's a beautiful destination, it means absolutely nothing if you spend the whole trip anxious and exhausted. Now, I've been to London multiple times with our son and found it incredibly stressful. Busy, chaotic, overwhelming. Copenhagen was the complete opposite. The Danes are incredibly friendly and relaxed around kids. Every restaurant we went to, our son was welcomed without question. It's one of the most relaxed trips we've had. Now, remember that moment I mentioned at the start, the one where I nearly booked us on the next flight home? That was day 2. It was -4 degrees, the wind was cutting right through us, and our son had decided he was done walking. But we pushed through, found a warm cafe, warmed up, and within an hour we were back out and having the time of our lives at Experitorium. If you're weighing up multiple cities and worried that you regret choosing Copenhagen, I generally don't think you will. If this is your one big holiday of the year and you want guaranteed sun and theme parks, then maybe look somewhere else. But for a proper city break in a country you've never visited, it's very hard to beat. So is Copenhagen good for families? Yes, definitely 100%. It's clean and safe, the city is incredibly easy to walk around, the public transport is excellent, you'll find brilliant bars and restaurants, and there is so much to do for both you and your kids to see. It's not the cheapest trip, but it is one of the best family city breaks that I've taken. Copenhagen surprised us, and honestly, that's the best thing a city break can do. If you're already going to Copenhagen, watch my mistakes video before you go. The link is right there. it will save you money and a few headaches. If you're still in the planning stage, check out the entire playlist where I've got my cost video, I've got a hotel review, I've also got a breakdown of things to do in Copenhagen with kids.